Most brands at 7 figures think they're testing ads, but when I actually go into an account, what I usually find is that they're not testing, they're just launching. There's a difference, and the difference is the whole game. A test gives you a decision at the end. Launch and hope gives you a report. Most brands are running reports and calling them tests and then wondering why their CPA creeps up every quarter and why their winners don't actually scale. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the full framework we use at Nuver, the one that actually works for brands doing 100K a month right through to 3 million a month. I covered the quick version of this a couple of weeks ago, and if you just want the overview, go check that one out first. But this is the deep dive. 7 parts: pre-test setup, campaign structure, ad set construction, the purchase exclusion call, how to read the right signal, how to scale inside the test, and how to hand off winners to your super campaigns without losing anything in the transfer. End to end. Let's get into it. So let's start with what a clean test actually is, because this is where most brands trip up before they even launch an ad. A clean test is an ad that gets a fair read. That means the budget isn't being stolen by an older winner. That means the audience isn't contaminated by overlap with another ad set. That means at the end of the test, you can look at the numbers and make a decision: kill, hold, or scale. That's it. A messy test is everything else. Ads crammed into a CBO campaign that already has a couple of favorites, tests run on budgets too small to ever reach statistical signal, tests that mix videos and statics in the same ad set and then average out performance, tests read purely off Meta's in-platform ROAS without any kind of cross-check. The brands that scale cleanly are running clean tests. The brands stuck at the same revenue month after month are running messy ones and calling them something they're not. So with that out of the way, let's start before launch, because the biggest decisions you make in testing actually happen before you touch Ads Manager. Part 1, the pre-test foundation. Most brands skip this part. They go straight from "we need new ads" to briefing a UGC creator. That's a mistake. The foundation has 4 pieces. First, angles before ads. Every ad set in your ABO test is going to represent one angle, and an angle is a specific message to a specific audience segment. Something like, "this cream fixes your adult acne without drying out your skin" is an angle. "We should do a before and after video" is not an angle. That's an ad. You write the angles first because the angle determines the structure of the test, the creative brief, and how you read the numbers afterwards. Second is creative diversity across 3 pillars. Every testing campaign should pull from UGC, founder-led content, or in-house product content. UGC via creator flow is the easy one. You can brief creators at around $200 to $400, and usage rights are handled by the platform. Founder-led is the brand owner or a spokesperson on camera, and honestly, it often outperforms UGC because the authority comes through on screen. In-house product content is your photography, demos, text overlay edits, anything your team can produce. Don't default to UGC alone. The accounts that scale furthest are the ones pulling from all 3 pillars at the same time. Third, the 3-second diversity rule. When you're remixing the same raw footage into multiple ad variants, vary across 4 things. Composition, so the framing and angle are different. People, so who's on screen changes, or whether there's even a person on screen at all. Text overlay, so the hook looks distinct, and framing, which means the pacing, the cut rhythm, and the intro beat. Without variation across those 4, the algorithm and your audience read 5 new ads as the same ad, and your test produces nothing. Fourth, set your target CPA before you launch. This is the one people skip most. If you don't set a target CPA, you can't size your ad set budget. You can't set a read window, and you can't decide when to scale. Pull it from your margin structure, your AOV, your LTV, whatever signal you've got in the business. You need that number locked before you even open Ads Manager. Get those 4 right and the rest of the framework actually works. Skip them and the whole thing falls over no matter how good your structure is. Part 2, campaign architecture. ABO versus CBO. Now let's get into structure. The biggest mistake I see at 7-figure scale is testing inside a CBO campaign. Campaign budget optimization. You've got one campaign, you're dumping new ads into it, and the algorithm decides where the budget goes. Sounds efficient, right? Here's what actually happens. The algorithm picks 3 or 4 ads that it likes inside that CBO. It gets happy with the CPA it's getting from those ads, and every new ad you throw in, it just won't spend on because it's already satisfied with the existing winners. So you could load 30 new test ads into that campaign, and 2 weeks later, 26 of them have $4 spent on them, and the same old 4 are still running the show. You've learned nothing from your new creative. You've just confirmed the algorithm prefers the ads it already knew. You can try to force some spend with minimum thresholds per ad set, and that helps a little bit, but it doesn't give you a clean read on whether your new ad is actually better than your current winner. You're just making the algorithm look at it. There's another problem with testing inside a CBO that's already performing well. Every time you drop new ads into that campaign, you're resetting the learning. The campaign doesn't get time to stabilize. You'll see the CPA stay stuck low, but not in a good way because the algorithm keeps getting disrupted before it can settle into a real cycle. That's another reason testing lives in a separate ABO campaign. You run your tests over there, you identify your winners, and you move those winners into the CBO only when it starts to fatigue and genuinely needs a boost. That's when new creative helps the CBO rather than disrupting it. At 7 figures, you need clean tests, not blended ones. That's why testing lives in ABO. ABO means ad set budget optimization. Budgets sit at the ad set level. Each ad set gets its own spend, gets its own read, tests independently. One angle per ad set. No bleeding, no starvation. I want to call out something important here. This split is not the same for every brand. If you're a startup brand, so sub 100K a month, running ABO with 10 tight angles and small budgets is going to spread your signal too thin. You won't have the volume to read anything. At that stage, a CBO campaign with all your creative in it is often the better move because your budget's limited. Consolidating it into one campaign lets the algorithm make the most of what you're spending rather than fragmenting across ad sets that never really get volume to matter. Broad targeting, simple structure, let Meta find the audience while you focus on getting your creative right. For scaling brands, so 100K a month and up, ABO with one angle per ad set is the move. And CBO still has a role, just not in testing. CBO lives inside super campaigns after a winner is validated, which I'll come back to at the end of this video. So part 3, ad set construction. So you're running an ABO testing campaign. What goes inside each ad set? 3 rules. First, 5 to 10 ads per ad set. That's your default. You're usually testing 1 or 2 concepts with 5 to 10 variations. Different hooks, different CTAs, different opening frames. The algorithm can handle that volume and give you a clean read on what's winning inside the ad set. Now there are exceptions. If you've got one really strong standalone concept like an influencer ad from the creator's own page with a bunch of existing engagement on it, it's totally fine to run that as the only ad in the ad set. And if you're running heavy volume like hundreds of ads a month, you can push up to 15 or 20 per ad set. But 5 to 10 is the default. Second is the batching logic. This is where people get sloppy. You need to pick one intent per ad set and stick to it. If you want a clean read on which specific creative inside an angle wins, batch similar creatives together. Same concept, different execution. That's also where format testing sits. If you want to know whether a static or a video version of the same message converts better, you can actually run them in the same ad set because the angle's the same and you're just testing execution. That's a valid test. If you want the algorithm to pick the best performer and scale spend to it automatically, you can batch diverse creatives together. Different angles, different formats, let Meta decide. Both are legitimate, but you can't mix intents inside one ad set. If you do, you won't get either clarity or efficiency. And third is budget sizing. This is probably the most under-talked about part of testing. For accounts doing $1 million a month or more, set each testing ad set to 2 to 3 times your target CPA per day. So if your target CPA is $30, that's $60 to $90 a day per ad set. That gets you 2 to 3 purchases per day inside each ad set, which is enough signal to know within 3 to 7 days whether something is working. For accounts under $1 million a month, you can go lower, around 1 times your target CPA, but you need to give the test 7 days to 14 days to accumulate enough data. If you're testing 10 ad sets at once and don't have the budget for 2 to 3 times CPA on each one, running at 1 time CPA over a longer read window is okay. The thing to avoid is underfunding ABO at scale. That's the single most common failure mode I see. A $1 million a month brand running $20 a day ad sets and then wondering why their tests are inconclusive. The test never had a chance. You've got to fund it properly. Part 4, the purchase exclusions call. Quick one, do you exclude past purchases from your testing ad sets or not? The answer is, it depends. Across our whole roster, it's probably a 50-50 split. You exclude purchases when the account is focused on new customer acquisition and retention is being handled well somewhere else. Klaviyo flows are doing their job, SMS is running, the repeat purchase rate is strong. In that case, you want clean new customer data out of your testing, so you exclude. You don't exclude purchases when the brand's repeat purchase rate is lower and bringing existing customers back through ads is perfectly acceptable. In that case, the tests gather signal faster because existing customers engage and convert and help the algorithm learn. You get data quicker. Default rule, if you're not sure, if you're at $1 million per month and up, default to excluding. If you're still building your customer base, default to not excluding. Either is fine. You just need to pick intentionally instead of leaving it on whatever was set last time. Part 5, reading the signal. This is the part most brands get wrong, not the structure, the reading. You're going to look at your test in a few waves, and honestly, the exact timing depends on your scale. Sometimes you'll see obvious winners on day 1 or day 3, especially in higher volume accounts where the ad set hits 4 or 5 purchases inside 48 hours. That's rare, but it happens, and when it does, you can start acting on it early. Don't force it though. For most brands, week 1 is your first real read. By the end of week 1, you should have enough purchases on an ad set to see whether something is actually working. Kill the clear losers at that point, keep the rest running. Week 2 is your decision point for most ads. Either you've seen enough to know it's a winner, you've seen enough to know it's not, or you've got a maybe that needs more data. Sometimes the decision genuinely stretches out to 2 full weeks, especially at sub 1 million scale, where volume per ad set is lower. Don't rush the read. Inside the platform, you're looking at cost per outbound click, CPA, and number of tracked purchases. That's your core read. You can also break down the different attribution windows inside Ads Manager. Look at your 7-day click numbers separately from your 1-day view numbers. That tells you whether the ads conversions are coming from direct clicks or from view through, which changes how you interpret its real contribution. But here's the part that changes everything. You cannot read your test off Meta Ads Manager alone. Meta Ads Manager is an optimization tool, not an attribution tool. Its ROAS number is useful as a signal the algorithm uses to learn. It's not useful as a verdict on whether your ad actually made money. It counts sales from people who liked a post, watched a video, or clicked a different ad. Not wrong exactly, but not the whole story. So you should cross-check with 2 other layers. UTM tracking inside Shopify's marketing section is strict last click. It shows you which campaign got clicked immediately before the purchase. That's your closer data. And third-party attributions. So Triple Whale or Blot Out with Emotive, if you want the server-side setup we run, shows the first click versus last click across 7, 14, 30-day, and lifetime windows. That's the full journey. 3 layers. Ads Manager tells you what Meta thinks, UTMs tell you what closed the deal, third party tells you what brought them in. Now here's a pattern worth knowing because it changes how you interpret your test. Statics tend to skew last click heavy. They capture attention in feed and they close deals. Videos tend to skew first click heavy. They educate and open the audience up, but the conversion often happens on a later touch through a different ad. So an ad that looks weak in Meta Ads Manager might actually be doing 80% of your first click work. If you cut it, your whole account drops 2 weeks later because nothing's bringing new audiences in. The attribution layer is what stops you making that mistake. One more reading tool, the UTM 1x floor rule. At a minimum, your Shopify attributed revenue from Meta should come in at least 1 times your Meta spend. Shopify should show at least 10K attributed. Below 1 times, something's wrong with the direct response engine. Even if Ads Manager is lit up green, 1 to 3 times is healthy. We've seen up to 5 times in really strong accounts. Use the 1 times floor as a red flag check, not a ceiling target. So putting it all together, your kill, hold, or scale decisions look like this. Both Ads Manager and attribution are light, cut the ad. If one's light but one's heavy, keep it running because it's playing a role. If both attribution tools look good, scale aggressively. That's the rubric. Part 6, vertical scaling inside the test. Now this is the part that 7-figure brands do differently from everyone else. When an ad is clearly winning, sometimes on day 1, usually by day 3, you don't wait to move it into a super campaign. You start scaling it right there inside the testing ad set. The testing ad set becomes a scaling ad set for that specific concept. So your testing campaign is also doubling as a scaling campaign for your hottest winners. Hybrid structure on purpose. The rhythm looks like this. Double the budget when confidence is high. So $50 a day to $100 per day. If CPA holds, push again. Then you move to a steadier rhythm, 20 to 50% increases every 2 to 3 days when performance is stable. If the ad is just crushing it, you can push daily. If it's okay, but not amazing, give it 7 to 14 days to gather more data before you make the next call. Few things to avoid while you're scaling. I wouldn't use bid caps, cost caps, or ROAS targets. I know they sound disciplined, but what they actually do is restrict how much the algorithm can spend and narrow the audiences it's willing to target. The campaign looks efficient in Ads Manager, but the ceiling collapses. You squeeze exploration out of the campaign and kill new customer acquisition in the process. Manual performance-based scaling is the move. If it's hitting your target, push. If it's not, pull back. You stay in control. Second one, keep the attribution window on 7-day click with 1-day view. You can add 1-day engage on top if you want, that's optional, but the 7-day click plus 1-day view is the default you want to be running. Don't run click only. Click only restricts the algorithm to people who are ready to buy in the next 7 days, which misses a huge share of your actual customer base who buy over a longer horizon or through multiple impressions. Keep the window open inside Meta and read the click data cleanly through your third-party attribution when you need it. That's the vertical scaling piece. Test campaign becomes test and scale, and you get the first wave of budget onto a winner without waiting for a handoff. Part 7, the flywheel, handing off winners to super campaigns. Okay, so you've been testing, you've scaled your winners inside the test. Eventually you'll have 10 to 20 ads that are clear winners. That's when the handoff happens. You move those winners out of the testing campaign and into your super campaigns. Super campaigns are your main scaling structure, and I covered the full framework in another video, which I'll link below. Quick version, super campaigns use CBO. They run at different exclusion tiers, different themes, different landing pages in parallel, and the algorithm cycles spend across a pool of proven ads. 2 things to get right on the handoff. First, duplicate with engagement. Don't just recreate the ad, use Meta's duplicate function or grab the post ID and use that. The reason is that likes, comments, shares, and video view counts carry over. So that social proof is worth real money on a scaling ad. You never want to scale an ad with 0 engagement if you can avoid it. Second, size matters in your super campaign. Meta reps have confirmed this, and our account data backs it up. Super campaigns with 50 ads often outperform super campaigns with 5 or 10. The algorithm cycles through creatives automatically as individual ones fatigue, which keeps the campaign stable for longer. Over a 7-day window, you might see spend concentrated on 5 or 6 ads, but over a longer window, it's actually allocating small amounts across a lot more. That rotation is what sustains performance. Don't overthink it, get your winners in there and let the algorithm run the rotation. And something that's worth saying here, because it comes up a lot, having a diverse range of creatives inside a super campaign is actually really beneficial. It's not a problem. Creative diversity within a single campaign and even within a single ad set is really effective right now. Meta's algorithm is good enough to match a specific ad to a specific audience inside the same pool, even when every creative in there is different from others. You'll see certain ads get more spend than others. That's not a sign something's wrong, that's the algorithm doing its job, distributing your spend across the audiences most likely to convert and making sure the right ad shows up for the right person. Your overall CPA on the campaign ends up lower because of that diversity, not despite it. 2 more details most brands miss. Keep ABO running in parallel. A super campaign without a testing pipeline behind it will fatigue inside a few months. The flywheel only works if new creative keeps flowing into testing while the super campaign scales your current winners. And stand up secondary super campaigns when you need to. Sometimes an older super campaign just ignores new winners. The algorithm's happy with what it's got and won't spend on anything fresh. When that happens, don't fight it. Create a new super campaign for the recent winners and let it scale alongside the old one. We see this pattern constantly. Both campaigns end up running in parallel, each absorbing a different slice of available audience, and the account scales faster than it would with one big campaign. That's the flywheel. Constant testing in ABO, vertical scaling on hot winners inside the test, batch handoff to super campaigns, new super campaigns when the old ones get stuck, and fresh creative feeding the top of the system the whole time. That's what 7-figure brands are actually doing. So to bring it all together, you're writing your angles first. You're running ABO testing as its own campaign, not dumping new ads into a winning CBO and resetting its learning. 5 to 10 ads per ad set, 1 intent per ad set, budget at 2 to 3 times target CPA. You're reading the signal week 1 and week 2 using cost per outbound click, CPA, and purchases inside the platform, and cross-checking through 3 attribution layers. When a winner shows up, you scale it inside the test before handing it off. You duplicate with engagement when you move it into a super campaign. You keep testing in parallel, and you stand up new super campaigns when the old ones get stuck. That's the ultimate testing framework. All of this is just one part of what you actually need to scale your DTC brand with profitable meta ads. You also need to nail your landing page testing, your offer structure, and your email flow integration. Those 3 are the other big layers that decide what your testing actually converts to in revenue. If you're doing over 100K per month and you want to be sure you're not wasting time and money on the mistakes most brands make, check out the first link in the description to claim your free audit and work with me directly. But even more importantly, make sure to go watch my breakdown of the Super Campaigns framework, which is the scaling half of the flywheel I just walked you through. I'm sure you'll find some gems for your brand. It's super practical. See you there.